So, a simple way to understand this is those who are engaged in Gunibhuta Bhakti, they worship the Supreme Lord in the sacred fire, in the Guru, in themselves, in all creatures. So this is how they actually worship, even in deity worship. Deity worship comes in 11th canto. Where is it? Lord Krishna's instructions on the process of deity worship. Here also, that method is taught. So that's how they worship. Only Jiva Goswami in his commentary to this chapter of Bhagavatam, he points out those who have love for the Supreme Lord, they directly experience the deity as the Supreme Lord. Whereas, see here, Archayam, within the deity form, Standile, in earth, Agno, in fire, he should worship me, in, see everywhere. Or to a form of me appearing upon the ground, in fire, in sun, in water, within the worshipper's own heart. So here, in the earth means in a deity form made out of earth. In the Madhur line, that's how they understand. We don't take deity worship from the Madhur Sampradaya. We follow the Pancharatrika method, where the deity is accepted as the Supreme Lord. Whereas the Bhagavadis, they worship the deity, they worship Krishna in the deity form. So their method is every day they beg the Supreme Lord to enter the deity form, receive the worship through the deity form, and then please go away to the spiritual world. And then again, next morning, again they wake up. This is how they wake up the deity. Please enter into this deity, please accept my worship. And night time and everything, please now you go back to your status. And again, next day, again, please come into the deity. So we don't follow that. Okay, where are we right now? In Bhagavad Gita 7.9. Okay.
Vidvan sarvabhuteshu tapaschasmi tapasvishu. I am the original fragrance of the earth, and I am the heat of fire. I am the life of all that live, and I am the finances of all the spirits.
Punya means that which is not decomposed. Punya is original. Everything in the material world has a certain flavor or fragrance, originally, as the flavor and fragrance in a flower or in the earth, in water, in fire, in air, etc. The uncontaminated flavor, the original flavor, which permeates everything, is Krishna. Similarly, everything has a particular original taste. Just close that. I don't know if it makes any difference. The uncontaminated flavor, the original flavor, which permeates everything, is Krishna. Similarly, everything has a particular original taste, and this taste can be changed by the mixture of chemicals. So everything original has some smell, some fragrance, some taste. The bhava su means fire. Without fire, we cannot run factories, we cannot cook, etc. And that fire is Krishna. The heat in the fire is Krishna. According to Vedic medicine, indigestion is due to a low temperature in the belly. So even for digestion, fire is needed. In Krishna consciousness, we become aware that earth, water, fire, air, and every active principle, all chemicals, and all material elements are due to Krishna. The duration of man's life is also due to Krishna. Therefore, by the grace of Krishna, man can prolong his life for diminishing. So Krishna consciousness is active in every sphere, meaning that whenever we come across all these objects, we can always remember Krishna and his presence extend.
Nijam mam sarvabhutanam vriddhi partha sanatanam buddhir buddhimartam asmin tejasvinam aham. O son of Pratha, know that I am the original seed of all existences, the intelligence of the intelligent, and the prowess of all powerful men.
Sri Valadeva Devoshana Srimad, know me to be the one eternal seed of all moving and non-moving beings, not a different seed in each entity, and not a temporary object. You should know that I am the seed of all things, as I alone am the material cause of all bodies for the jivas. Through the vibhuti of Pradhan, vibhuti means opulence, I maintain all things, and they are nourished by that dependence. What is a vibhuti? Vibhuti is described by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. शक्त्यावेश दुई रूप मुख्य गौण देखी साक्षात शक्ति अवतार आभासे विभूति लिखी. Empowered incarnations are in two categories: primary empowered incarnations and secondary incarnations. When there is direct power, then they are called avatars. When there is only an indication of power, then they are called vibhutis. They are possessed of Krishna's special favor. Empowered incarnations are of two types, primary and secondary. The primary ones are directly empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and are called incarnations. The secondary ones are indirectly empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and are called vibhuti. So when we read in the 10th chapter, the 10th chapter is called the chapter where Krishna's vibhutis are described. So they are all secondary empowered forms. That is the reason why Krishna keeps saying, I am this, I am this, I am this. Because he is present within them and gives them some unique feature that makes them extraordinary. We'll come across this. Bija means seed. Krishna is the seed of everything. There are various living entities, movable and inert. Birds, beasts, men, and many other living creatures are moving living entities. Trees and plants, however, are inert. They cannot move but only stand. Every entity is contained within the scope of 8,400,000 species of life. Some of them are moving and some of them are inert. In all cases, however, the seed of their life is Krishna. As stated in Vedic literature, Brahman, or the supreme absolute truth, is that from which everything is emanating. Krishna is Parabrahman, the supreme spirit. Brahman is impersonal, and Parabrahman is personal. Impersonal Brahman is situated in the personal aspect. That is stated in Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, originally, Krishna is the source of everything. He is the root. As the root of a tree maintains the whole tree, Krishna, being the original root of all things, maintains everything in this material manifestation. He is the prime eternal among all eternals. He is the supreme living entity of all living entities, and he alone is maintaining all life. One cannot do anything without intelligence, and Krishna also says that he is the root of all intelligence. So when Krishna says, I am the intelligence, what it means is, I am the cause of intelligence. I am the root of intelligence. Unless a person is intelligent, he cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. So either he should have developed that intelligence through spiritual piety, or he needs to be given that intelligence. But without intelligence, one cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 11.
And the strength of the strong, word of passion and desire, and sex life is not contrary to religious principles, वो लौट आते हैं हमारे तक अजीब।
Here, notice in the first line, Kama Raga Vivarjitam. The first line means I am the strength of the strong, which is devoid of passion and attachment. I am the strength that is Kama Raga Vivarjitam, which is devoid of Kama, passion, and Raga, attachment. So Sri Baladev Devotion has explained. Kama means desire for maintaining oneself and desire for material objects. Raga means that after having attained one's desired object, one still hankers for additional things. Raga is excessive thirst for material enjoyment, which contaminates the consciousness. Strength devoid of Kama and Raga enables one to perform one's prescribed duties properly. So that is the reason why this is brought up. I am Kama, which is only for the purpose of producing offspring through one's wife. The strong man's strength should be applied to protect the weak, not for personal aggression. Similarly, sex life, according to religious principles, dharma, should be for the propagation of children, not otherwise. The responsibility of parents is then to make their offspring Krishna conscious. Previously, these things were very normal and natural. And therefore, married people typically had many children. In the Varnashram system, one can have many children. And it is very useful for the community because each child means you have two hands for working. And you are adding to the labor force, not just labor force, or different, whether they could be Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, whatever. Everybody is contributing to society. So having more children was always considered a public good, as they say in today's world. In today's world, having children is an expensive hobby. Each child costs like 1 lakh per year. They think so much before having children. By the time he is 18 years old, 18 lakhs would have gone. So much more. Whereas in previously, that is not the idea. You marry because you have sexual desire. And let it be utilized for public good. You have sexual desire. So you engage in sexual activity when the wife is fertile. And you produce children. Contribute to society. Train yourself, train your dependents. That is the basic idea. And within the boundaries of Vedic Dharma, you should train the children to learn to, you should train them to do good to themselves and others, morally, spiritually. So it is always considered a nice thing. Whereas in today's world, they want, sex and all happily they have from school days itself. But the marriage, they think so much. I know one sannyasi spiritual master, he used to joke that one of his relatives from America, she already had 1 or 2 children from her boyfriend. And then she wanted to marry her boyfriend. And that lady's mother kept telling her, be very cautious, think a lot. Don't rashly make this decision to marry. They already live together and they have children also. That is all. But marriage we can. Marriage means it's all legal, binding. This is today's world. Whereas this is much more natural. What is that? Putra artha kriyate bharya. You marry in order to have children. And you train the children to do good. Do good to those whom they are living with. And also, even those after they die, also you should do good to them. So in Varnashram Dharma, that concept is there, very simple. And this represents Krishna. Okay, text 12.
Know that all states of being of goodness, pragma, ignorance are manifested by my energy. I am nonsense, everything, but I am independent. I am not under the modes of material nature, or based on the contingent are within me.
Shit. Great divine thought. I was seeing you during last time. During break. Okay. Having explained a little of my vibhutis, the Lord now explains them all in summary. Know that all the different states of sattva, rajas, and tamas, which are situated as the cause of bodies, senses, and sense objects of the living entities, which permeate them as well, and which receive their respective powers from me, arise from me alone. But I am not situated in them. I am not at all dependent upon them for my existence. They are all dependent on me for their existence. That is the meaning of I am not under them, they are under me. All material activities in the world are being conducted under the three modes of material nature. Although these material modes of nature are emanations from the Supreme Lord Krishna, he is not subject to them. For instance, under the state laws, one may be punished, but the king, the lawmaker, is not subject to that law. Even in today's world, it must be the case in all countries that for the military, they have a different set of laws. They don't follow the ordinary civil law. If a person in the military does something that is considered wrong within that community of the military, they have their own court and they basically have their own system. They are not tried in the regular courts. They have their own system. So the idea is that they are above the civil law. That idea is there even now. Similarly, all the modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, are emanations from the Supreme Lord Krishna. But Krishna is not subject to material nature. Therefore, he is nirguna, which means that these gunas or modes, although issuing from him, do not affect him. That is one of the special characteristics of Bhagavan, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Know that all states in sattva, rajas, and tamas come from the effects of gunas of my prakriti. I am independent of all gunas. They are all dependent on my Shakti. Text 13.
Created by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance. The whole world does not know me. Who am above the modes and understood.
Having shown his nature, which is, having shown him his form, which is the worthy object of meditation, having shown that he is distinct from his two energies, the inferior and superior prakriti, the Lord now in 3 verses explains the cause of ignorance of his nature. That the cause of the ignorance of his nature is attachment to the inferior energy. So the reason why the world is in ignorance about Krishna's nature is because they are attached to the inferior energy. All the jivas of this universe, taking up forms of deva, asura, human, and so forth, have lost their power of discrimination by accepting bodies, senses, and sense objects in accordance with their karmas. These items are made of sattva, rajas, and tamas, which are the effects of my material. These are my material gunas, as previously explained, and they are subject to birth and transformation at every moment. In this condition, they are envious of me. Krishna, the Lord of all beings, full of concentrated knowledge and bliss, an ocean of infinite auspicious qualities. I never deviate from my nature. I am untouched by all the states of the jivas in the gunas. My apara prakriti, inferior nature, has three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. By these three gunas, the whole world is bewildered. Because of this, the world cannot know me, Krishna, the indestructible person, independent of all the gunas. See, these gunas, their duty is to bewilder. Their duty is to make sure that you don't come in touch with actual knowledge of things as they are. Their duty is to enchant. Consider it to be some kind of intoxication, just like people take intoxicant in order to forget reality. So similarly, Prakriti has this property of the three modes of material, of her three modes, sattva, rajas, tamas. Their very duty is to disconnect you from knowledge of reality. The whole world is enchanted by the three modes of material nature. Those who are bewildered by these three modes cannot understand that transcendental to this material nature is the Supreme Lord Krishna. I've been told that in China, in general, they promote atheism to such an extent that they try not to even talk about God in the public sphere. I know in countries like America, you cannot seriously bring in any discussion about God in the science classes. In the science classes, you bring it's illegal. Not really illegal. You can do it in the arts classes. That's fine. Arts is meant for this. Make your mind happy. So you can say whatever you want, think whatever you want. But in the science classes, we are dealing with knowledge of reality. Facts. The verifiable facts of life. There you don't bring any God. Illegal. Every living entity under the influence of material nature has a particular type of body and a particular type of psychological and biological activities accordingly. Every body is accompanied by a certain psychological nature and naturally a certain biological nature also. There are four classes of men functioning in the three material modes of nature. Those who are purely in the mode of goodness are called Brahmins. Those who are purely in the mode of passion are called Kshatriyas. There is some touch with Sattva amongst the Kshatriyas. Those who are in the modes of both passion and ignorance are called Vaishyas. Those who are completely in ignorance are called Shudras. And those who are less than that are animals or animal-like. However, these designations are not permanent. I may be either a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or whatever. In any case, this life is temporary. Meaning that in this life, I may be a Brahmana. Next life, I may be a Kshatriya. But all the life is temporary and we do not know what we are going to be in the next life. By the spell of this illusory energy, we consider ourselves in terms of this bodily conception of life. And we thus think that we are American, Indian, Russian, or Brahmin, Hindu, Muslim, etc. And if we become entangled with the modes of material nature, then we forget the Supreme Personality of God, who is behind all these modes. So these modes, they don't allow us to see the Supreme Lord. And even when we think about the Supreme Lord, they bewilder us. They don't allow us to understand him in reality. So Lord Krishna says that living entities deluded by these three modes of nature do not understand that behind the material background is the Supreme Personality of God. In the modern world, the scientists don't understand that when you are trying to study material nature, actually material nature itself is influencing you. It is influencing you. I remember there was one novel of a certain police officer. The story is set to maybe 1950s or something, after World War II, somewhere in America. And a police officer is trying to do investigation about the death of his wife. So, so he's very seriously investigating, and finally, he realizes, he is told by his assistants that actually, you know what, you're trying to, not his own assistant, his assistant, he comes to a place and he's investigating, interviewing, doing all kinds of things, he's trying to find out what's going on. And then afterwards, finally, he learns that the place where he came to, that's actually a mental asylum. And he himself is actually one of the patients in that mental asylum. Just that he forgot. And the one who killed his wife is he himself. He himself killed his wife for some reason. But he became so disturbed, and he started thinking that no, somebody must have killed. And then he starts a whole investigation. While the investigation process is going on, his doctors are investigating him. So finally, when he comes to the doctor, then he says, look, you're studying us, but actually we are the ones who are studying you. You're the sick fellow. We are not sick. You're the sick fellow. You are got into this delusion. So we're all like that, you know, we do so much of research to understand, oh, what is going on in this world. And the demigods are all thinking, what's wrong with you, man? You know, we are all looking at you, and you're trying to find out whether there's life on other planets. Everything is a joke. You know, we are the ones who are studying you. It's like, you know, you're caught up inside a prison, and then you're investigating what is it outside this prison. You know, is there any life outside this prison? Is there anything? You committed a crime, that's why you are put inside. You're forcibly keeping you inside, and now you're asking whether we exist. So that is our problem, because of the modes of material nature. Prakriti has that property, like magnet has a property of magnetism. Prakriti has a property of the three gunas, which are psychological influences on the jiva. So we are not allowed to see anything in reality. We do certain activities, we are influenced by goodness. We do some other activity, we are influenced by passion. And we do some other activity, we are influenced by ignorance. In either case, we are not allowed to see reality correctly. In the mode of goodness, you have some chance of being able to see something. That much only is allowed. There are many different kinds of living entities, human beings, demigods, animals, etc. And each and every one of them is under the influence of material nature. And all of them have forgotten the transcendent personality of God. Those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance, and even those who are in the mode of goodness, cannot go beyond the impersonal Brahman conception of the absolute truth. So in Sattva Guna, one can come up to this point. That you can only come up to the point of understanding that, okay, there is something transcendental. Or like in the ordinary layman's language, I accept that there is some power. It's not a person, but it is some power. Something is there. Capital T, something, divine thing. There is no divine person. They are bewildered before the Supreme Lord in his personal feature, which possesses all beauty, opulence, knowledge, strength, fame, and renunciation. When even those who are in goodness cannot understand, what hope is there for those in passion and ignorance? Krishna consciousness is transcendental to all these three modes of material nature. And those who are truly established in Krishna consciousness are actually liberated. So Krishna alone is not bewildered, because he's on the other side. Prabhupada often says that a person who's selling sweets, he is not obsessed with sweets. He has it all the time with him. So he is not obsessed. Okay, text 14.
This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to work out, but those who are surrendered to me can easily cross beyond it.
But it will be very difficult to destroy the bewilderment caused by the three gunas, since Maya, from which the gunas arise, is eternal. This very astonishing, extraordinary Maya belongs to me. I am the Lord of all things. The creator of unlimited universe is full of inconceivable variety. Maya is called astonishing because it is an instrument in the creation of the astonishing, variegated, countless universes. Mayam tu prakritim vidyan, mayinam tu maheshwaram. One should know Prakriti or Maya and its master, the great Lord. This Maya is made of three gunas and it's like a rope made of three strands because it binds the jivas very tightly. Therefore, it is hard for the jivas to overcome. In terms of the analogy of the rope, this rope is impossible to untie, meaning that the jivas cannot untie as much as the police who comes and shackle the prisoners cannot unshackle themselves. The key is with the higher authorities. But though Maya is such, it can be destroyed by devotion to me. I am the Lord of all things, the controller of Maya, and the ocean of affection for those who surrender to me. Those who surrender to me, Krishna, through association with my devotees, cross over this Maya, unsurpassable like an ocean, with no effort, as if it were a puddle of water left in the hoofprint of a cow. Having crossed the ocean of Maya, they attain me, their master. I am inclined to give them mercy and am filled with bliss. The word eva. Mam eva ye prapadyanti. Eva. Certainly. Eva also means only. The word eva, meaning only, indicates that they cannot cross over Maya by surrender to others such as Brahma or Shiva. The Shruti similarly says, only by knowing him one surpasses them. Similarly, the Devas say to Muchikunda, all good fortune to you. Now please choose a benediction from us. Anything except liberation. Because only the infallible Supreme Lord Vishnu can bestow that. Lord Shiva tells Ghanta Karna, Mukti Pradata Sarvesham Vishnureva na samshaya. Without doubt, Vishnu alone gives liberation to all. So if one wants to get free from material existence, he has to surrender unto Lord Vishnu. In fact, this is the very reason that Madhvacharya he establishes that amongst the various deities, there are so many worshipable deities in Vedic culture. Who is the supreme worshipable deity? He says the supreme worshipable deity is Lord Vishnu. Why? Because we know that there are different purusharthas, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. And we also know that these worshipable deities, if they surrender to them and they're satisfied, then they can give you particular purusharthas. But the highest purushartha is liberation. And liberation can be given by Vishnu alone. That is said in Shastri. So therefore he says, because amongst the four purusharthas, the highest purushartha is moksha. Within dharma, artha, kama, moksha, moksha is the highest. Nobody disputes it. The only person who can give moksha is Vishnu. So therefore, Vishnu must be the supreme being. If Shiva were to be the supreme being, how can he not have the same power? How can he not have a power that Vishnu has? So that principle is there. This Maya is my Shakti. Thus, it is naturally difficult to overcome for the weak Jiva. Those who surrender to my form as Bhagavan can cross over the ocean of Maya. One cannot overcome Maya by karma and jnana or by surrender to devatas. See, mam eva ye prapadyante. See this word prapadyante, surrender. Surrender. Only those who surrender to Krishna's lotus feet are given release. Everybody is not given release. Take the opportunity to show it here. It's very good. And we are coming to a very interesting section, so let me use that opportunity. In the middle six. What is the verse? Nanu tarshi trigunam mayam mohat kathamutirna bhavanti. So then how can they get out of this delusion caused by the three modes of material nature? Tatrahadaivi. Anticipating that question, the Lord presents an answer in this verse. Daivi Vishaya Anandena Divyanti iti Devaha Jivaha Tadiyaha Tesha Mohitri Ityartha. Daivi indicates that she bewilders the jivas. The jivas are enjoying with the bliss of sense objects. So she has bewildered them. That is why that is happening. Gunamayi, Shleshena, Triveshtana Mahapasharupa. Just as when one is put, this pasha means a noose. You catch someone with a noose. We hear about Yamaraj's noose. So she has put the jivas under a noose. And in this noose, there are three strands in that rope. Bhava Parameshwarasya Maya Bahiranga Shaktir Duratyaya Durratikrama. So this Maya, or the external potency of me, the Supreme Ishvara, that is insurmountable. Pashapakshe Chetum Udgrantayatum Va Kenapya Shakya Ityartha. That rope, it cannot be cut, nor can you unknot it. Kintu madvachi vishwasihi. But please believe in what I'm saying. It is swabhakshas prishtva mam shama sundara akarameva. But those who surrender unto me, the one in front of you, in the form of Shama Sundara, they will be delivered. Okay. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has innumerable energies, and all these energies are divine, transcendental, daivi. Although the living entities are parts of its energies and are therefore divine, due to contact with the material energy, their original superior power is covered. Being thus covered by material energy, one cannot possibly overcome its influence. As previously stated, both the material and spiritual natures, being emanations from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are eternal. The living entities belong to the eternal superior nature of the Lord, but due to contamination by the inferior nature, matter, their illusion is also eternal. The conditioned soul is therefore called Nitya Baddha, or eternally conditioned. No one can trace out the history of his becoming conditioned at a certain date in material history. Consequently, his release from the clutches of material nature is very difficult, even though that material nature is an inferior energy, because material energy is ultimately conducted by the supreme will, which the living entity cannot overcome. Same example that I gave before. Take a boxer's glove. A boxer's glove is actually a small little object. It's not very heavy. You can simply take it and cut it out, break it, throw it, and so on. So, from the perspective of Jivatma, see, Jivatma is marginal potency. Mahamaya, Prakriti, she is actually external potency. She is inferior to the Jivatma. So if she is inferior to the Jivatma, how she is controlling the Jivatma? Even in Bhagavad Gita we saw superior potency, superior Prakriti, inferior Prakriti. The Jivatma is superior Prakriti. And matter, that is actually inferior Prakriti. So how the inferior Prakriti can control the superior Prakriti? Actually, the inferior Prakriti is inferior only. But when the inferior Prakriti is held by the Supreme Personality of God and Krishna, that the Jivatma cannot go against. Just like that boxer's glove. If it is in the hands of a powerful boxer, then I cannot fight. Similarly, this Prakriti, material Prakriti, she is inferior. But because material energy is ultimately conducted by the supreme will, by the will of Krishna, the supreme being, which the living entity cannot overcome. The living entity cannot overcome the will of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, he comes under control. Inferior material nature is defined herein as divine nature, Daivi, transcendental nature, due to its divine connection, because it is under the control of the divine person, Supreme Lord. and movement by the divine will, being conducted by divine will, material nature, although inferior, acts so wonderfully in the construction and destruction of the cosmic manifestation. The Vedas confirm this as follows. Mayam tu prakritim vidyan, mayinam tu maheshwaram. Although Maya illusion is false or temporary, the background of Maya is the supreme magician, the personality of Godhead, who is Maheshwara, the supreme controller. Should write this. One of the meanings of Maya is magic. And meaning refers to magician. Just as a magician comes and does different extraordinary activity, activates the audience. So like that, it is the Supreme Personality of Godhead who's using Maya to bewilder the conditioned souls. So in reality, ultimately what is going on is simply interaction between the living entity and the Supreme Lord through Maya. That's all that's happening. Another meaning of guna is rope. It is to be understood that the conditioned soul is tightly tied by the ropes of illusion. A man bound by the hands and feet cannot free himself. He must be helped by a person who is unbound. Because the bound cannot help the bound, the rescuer must be liberated. Therefore, only Lord Krishna or his bona fide representative, the spiritual master, can release a conditioned soul. Without such superior help, one cannot be freed from the bondage of material nature. Devotional service or Krishna consciousness can help one gain such release. Krishna, being the Lord of the illusory energy, can order this insurmountable energy to release the conditioned soul. So it is like this. Imagine if you have, I don't know if it is, must be there, must be rare. Say there is a very honest police officer, okay, who are rarely found on this planet, but they are there. And they have a son or daughter who breaks the law. Then they will order the constable to go and arrest. The constable is very inferior to the police. And in places like in India, when they respect you with your paraphernalia, families, everybody gets respect. So they respect even the servant in your home. They respect your son, your son, daughter, etc. So normally they would not be capable of thinking that I can arrest the daughter of a police officer. But if the police officer himself orders that constable, go and arrest on my order, then that has to happen. Same way, Maya Devi, how she is able to harass the Jivatma so much? Because she is ordered by Krishna. Similarly, the release of the living entities is also ordered by Krishna. When Krishna tells, okay, now release, that's all. So everything is dependent on just that Krishna's sankalpa, his resolution, his will. That's all. If he says, all right, release. Instant. So it's not, in other words, that bondage is not due to some mechanical process. Sometimes we are caught up in some conditioned status due to some mechanical reason. Like for instance, you forget your key and then you are locked inside your room. It's an instance of conditioning, which is just purely mechanical reason. It's a mechanical reason. So we are not in samsara chakra due to any mechanical reason, nor can we release ourselves by any mechanical process. So there's nothing I can do that I just cultivate the mode of luminosity. I do all these things perfectly well. I press this button, I get liberated. It's nothing like that. It's all controlled by certain persons who think and who make decisions and who have powers. So only when Krishna makes the decision that all right, release this particular living entity, then that particular living entity is released. Personality involved. Personality ultimately, in reality, everyone is a person. All conscious beings are persons. Krishna is a person, the living entities are persons. Even matter is being presided over by a conscious being who is a person. And persons are capable of thinking, feeling, willing, acting, deciding, and so on. Krishna, being the Lord of the illusory energy, can order this insurmountable energy to release a conditioned soul. He orders this release out of his causeless mercy on the surrendered soul and out of his paternal affection for the living entity. Paternal affection, the affection as a father for the living entity, who's originally a beloved son of the Lord. Therefore, surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord is the only means to get free from the clutches of the stringent material nature. The words Mam Eva are also significant. Mam means unto Krishna or Vishnu only, and not Brahma or Shiva, which also includes all other, any other demigod, demigoddess. Although Brahma and Shiva are greatly elevated and are almost on the level of Vishnu, it is not possible for such incarnations of Rajoguna, passion, Tamoguna, ignorance to release the conditioned soul from the clutches of Maya. In other words, both Brahma and Shiva are also under the influence of Maya. Only Vishnu is the master of Maya. Therefore, he alone can give release to the conditioned soul. The Vedas confirm this in the phrase Tammeva viditva. Our freedom is possible only by understanding Krishna. Even Lord Shiva affirms that liberation can be achieved only by the mercy of Vishnu. Lord Shiva says, Mukti pradata sarvesham Vishnureva na samshaya. There is no doubt that Vishnu is the deliverer of liberation for everyone. Okay, it's 15. Feeling asleep? Okay, you read the verse.
Namam Niskrutino Murham, Parvadam Venaradhamaham, Maya Prabhajanam, Asuram Bhavamastitaha. Those miscreants who are crossed with police, who are lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who parted of the atheistic nature of demons, don't surrender unto me.
If those who surrender to you attain liberation, why others, even learned persons, don't surrender unto you? So if liberation can be had just by surrendering unto Krishna's lotus feet, why they don't surrender? Then Sri Balaji Vidyabhushan indicates that this is how Krishna responds. Those who know the meaning of scripture, but who are evil, that means those who misuse knowledge, do not surrender unto them. In the scriptures, we hear about people who are blind to the factual conclusions of the scriptures. Though internally they are ignorant, they think that they are learned. These fools wander about in confusion like blind men leading other blind men. These are of 4 types. Under the influence of Maya, one type, the foolish, Mudha, absorbed completely in material activities, think that I, Vishnu, I'm like Indra, attainable by pious actions. In other words, they think that Vishnu is a post. Vishnu is not a post. Brahma is a post. In fact, even in the material world, Shiva can be a post. But Vishnu is not a post. You cannot become Vishnu. There's no pious activity you can do to become Vishnu. And that I'm like the Jivas, controlled by karma. Under the influence of Maya, others called the lowest of men, Naradhama, though attaining the status of the highest of humans by being born in a high family such as that of a Brahmana, become the lowest of men by exclusive absorption in materialistic, poetic works. Such persons are condemned by the supreme order of the Lord. Because they are averse to the nectar of the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are compared to stool-eating hogs They give up hearing the transcendental activities of the Lord and indulgent hearing of the abominable activities of materialistic persons. Previously, there were poets in the courts of kings. They are meant to simply glorify the kings. So those people are being criticized here. They can be just glorifying the Supreme Lord. No, that they won't do. We hear in the Ramanuja line there was one Vedanta Deshika, and he had a friend named Vidyaranya. Vidyaranya became a Mayavadi, but he was in some other kingdom, and he told Deshika later on. Vedanta Deshika was poor, voluntarily poor. He accepted Uncha Vritti. Uncha Vritti means when the wind blows, some grains they fall on the ground. So that is not usually used to. They would not usually use it for cooking or for sales. They would just keep it separately. So Vedanta Deshika, he accepted that vow that only these kind of grains which have fallen off by themselves, only that he would go for begging, and he would take that and he would give to his wife, she would cook, and he would eat that. So this was a self-imposed vow. Even in Bhagavatam, we come across this vow that Grihasthas have different opportunity of taking different vows to sustain themselves. This is one of the higher vows, Uncha Vritti, this point. Then Vidyaranya, he told him that, why don't you come to my place? The king is a very liberal king. You are a great poet, very talented person. You can encourage the king by writing some poetry occasionally. He won't disturb you. You can do your thing. And you'll be well maintained. And Deshika, he said, no, I never do. I only glorify the Supreme Personality of God. I never glorify anyone else. Only the Supreme Lord. Nobody else. So there are cases of strict Vaishnavas like that. Others, such as those following Sankhya, have shown, have their knowledge stolen by Maya. Though I am shown in the scriptures to be endowed with qualities such as omniscience, omnipotence, creatorship, and with the ability to give liberation, these persons, not surrendering to me, instead imagine that material nature is the creator of everything and the bestower of liberation. They create hundreds of fraudulent, illogical philosophies under the influence of Maya. Under the influence of Maya, others take shelter of the demoniac mentality and propound the theory of an entity, which is consciousness itself, without qualities, form, activities, or thoughts. In other words, they are Mayavadi. With their arrows, these demons pierce my body, which gives everyone else bliss. Similarly, these persons try to break up my body using logic with statements such as God has no qualities, even though my body is famous in the scriptures as being eternal and conscious. Their intelligence is manifested simply because of Maya. So there are those who think that God has a material body. This is all the Karma Kanda group. They believe like that. Then there are those who don't believe in God at all, that you just engage in material activities. Mimamsa group, they are like that. Those who think that God is Prakriti, like the Sankhya, atheistic Sankhya philosophers. And those who think that God is impersonal, such as the followers of Shankaracharya. Actually, the philosophy of Mayavada, it is demoniac actually. It's not some wonderful thing. It is demonic. It is almost a Xerox copy of Buddhism. Buddhism is also demonic. Even if Lord Vishnu comes and speaks something demoniac, it is still demoniac only. So we don't go by persons, we go by content. The idea is demonic. The person who is speaking in Krishna himself is speaking, but still is demonic. Same way, Shankaracharya is Lord Shiva's incarnation. So you may wonder how Lord Shiva on one hand is said to be the greatest Vaishnava, And his teaching is considered to be so terrible. How do these two matches? It matches because he's the greatest devotee of Lord Vishnu, and Lord Vishnu ordered him to speak this philosophy. It is required for a particular purpose. In Kali Yuga, it is required. He is just carrying out this instruction. It's just like when Vaishnavas also sometimes they do dramas. In the drama, somebody has to act as Hiranyakashipu. You act as Hiranyakashipu, nicely you act. So like that, Lord Shiva is able to do this. Taking shelter of demoniac nature, the Dushkrita, Mudha, Naradhama, and Maya Pakrita Jnana do not surrender to me. The first type, the Dushkrita, is a person living life completely beyond Vedic rules. The moralistic but atheistic person is Mudha, foolish, because he does not take shelter of me, who am the Lord of his morality. The Naradhama accepts me as an item of morality, but not as a Lord of morality. Those who are covered by Maya, or those who worship Shiva, Brahma, and others, but do not know that I possess potencies, that the Jiva has an eternal conscious nature, that the Jiva has a temporary relational nature with matter. In other words, he only has a temporary relationship with matter, and that the Jiva has a relational nature as my eternal servant. Permanent relationship he has with me as my eternal servant. Even though they study scriptures like Vedanta. 4 types of Dushkrita: Mudha, Naradhama, Maya Pahrita Jnana, and Asura Bhava do not surrender unto me, the personality of Bhagavan. The Mudha is overwhelmed by sense objects, and his mind is dulled by karma. Not understanding the existence of a conscious entity, they are determined to increase material science. The Naradhama, these are real people. Huh? There are several scientists who really cannot tolerate God, the concept of God. They are honestly irritated with the concept of God. They themselves accept it. You cannot tolerate it. Because you bring in God, then all these people, they, of course, sometimes they become very compassionate and they accept. Just like there are very foolish people, you need to give them some entertainment. And just like there are old women, you give them some cloth and tell them to stitch because they get bored. You need to give them to do something. So like that, we can have all these churches and all these places of worship for all these useless people. They can go there and they can worship some imaginary God. They can do this, but not in the science classes. In the science classes, time for knowledge. When knowledge is in factual knowledge, there's no place for them. But Naradhama refers to people knowledgeable of material actions, proud of their knowledge and claiming imaginary gods. They are atheistic moralists, devoid of inner elevation. Those whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, though they accept a conscious entity by being illusion, they take shelter of wicked philosophies such as Kevaladvaitavada. Kevaladvaitavada is the official name of Shankaracharya's philosophy. Shunyavada, this is the official name of Lord Buddha's philosophy. And Prakritivada, the philosophy of materialism. Okay, the philosophy of materialism is the official sacred teaching of today's world. There is only matter. There is nothing beyond matter. It is properly referred to as materialism. And they openly admit we are materialists. They are not shameful. They are not ashamed of saying that. They're very, very clearly and very, without the slightest difficulty, they say we are atheistic and we are materialistic. Materialistic in the sense that we accept there's only matter. There is no God, no soul, no afterlife. You are born and you die. And there's nothing in between. There's no living entity who goes through it and all. What is? There is no meaning in life. If you want, you can imagine your own meaning. That's what it is. God is a delusion. There is a famous book called The God Delusion, Richard Dawkins, one of the scientists he wrote. It has sold millions of copies. Those who take shelter of demoniac nature are proud, self-centered, and controlled by their senses. They are mad after happiness in the world and consider devotees to be inferior. In summary, persons devoid of sukriti in the form of devotee association at all times are called dushkritas. It is said in Bhagavad Gita that simply by this purport originally came from a Back to Godhead article that Prabhupada wrote when he was in India before he went to America. It is said in Bhagavad Gita that simply by surrendering oneself unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality Krishna, one can surmount the stringent laws of material nature. At this point, a question arises. How is it that educated philosophers, scientists, businessmen, administrators, and all the leaders of ordinary men do not surrender to the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, the all-powerful personality of God? And mukti or liberation from the laws of material nature is sought by the leaders of mankind in different ways and with great plans and perseverance for a great many years and births. Even the whole venture of modern science is to help mankind come to the point where they are no longer bound by the laws of material nature. Whole idea is to control nature, come to the point where we can control nature. So everybody wants freedom from the laws of material nature. But if that liberation is possible by simply surrendering unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then why don't these intelligent and hardworking leaders adopt this simple method? The Gita answers this question very frankly. Those really learned leaders of society like Brahma, Shiva, Kapila, the Kumaras, Manu, Vyasa, Devala, Asita, Janaka, Prahlad, Bali, and later on Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, Sri Chaitanya, and many others, who are faithful philosophers, politicians, educators, scientists, etc., surrendered to the lotus feet of the Supreme Person, the all-powerful authority. Those who are not actually philosophers, scientists, educators, administrators, etc., but who pose themselves as such for material gain, do not accept the plan or path of the Supreme Lord. They have no idea of God. They simply manufacture their own worldly plans and consequently complicate the problems of material existence in their vain attempts to solve them. Because material energy, nature, is so powerful, they can resist the unauthorized plans of the atheists and baffle the knowledge of planning commissions. The atheistic plan makers are described herein by the word dushkritinaha. Okay, now this requires some explanation. Originally comes, it originally comes from the word krit. Okay, krit. Krit means to do. And this will develop into krit, which means doer. And then you can make bush. You can also make so dushkrit refers to a person who does evil activities. Okay. And we can further modify it into and the plural form of this is dushkrit. Sukrit. Plural form of this is sukritinaha. You'll see these two words. So dushkritinaha. Namam dushkritinaha. Or miscreants. Kriti means one who has performed meritorious work. In other words, some hard work, something which is worthy of praise. Kriti means one who has performed meritorious work. The atheistic plan maker is sometimes very intelligent and meritorious also, because any gigantic plan, good or bad, must take intelligence to execute. But because the atheist brain is improperly utilized in opposing the plan of the Supreme Lord, the atheistic plan maker is called Dushkriti, which indicates that his intelligence and efforts are misdirected. In the Gita, it is clearly mentioned that material energy works fully under the direction of the Supreme Lord. It has no independent authority. It works as the shadow moves in accordance with the movements of the object. But still, material energy is very powerful, and the atheist, due to his godless temperament, cannot know how it works, nor can he know the plan of the Supreme Lord. Under illusion and the modes of passion and ignorance, all his plans are baffled, as in the case of Hiranyakashipu and Ravana, whose plans were smashed to dust, although they were both materially learned as scientists, philosophers, administrators, and educators. People like Hiranyakashipu and Ravana are actually villains. In some parts of South India, they foolishly think that Ravana is a hero. There are some people who think Karna is a hero. Completely crazy, how they manage to make some. A person who does bad to others, how they can think this. Ravana went around disturbing people. It's not some innocent person who was framed up.
People read book on them, they are portraying them as heroes. Because of that, effect goes on the audience also.
Yeah, and then somebody, why can't they make a book on Osama bin Laden as a savior of the universe? It's crazy, completely crazy. At least you should understand what is fact. These dushkritinas or miscreants are of 4 different patterns as outlined below. I want someone to read only about the first of the 4 types.
The Mudas are those who are grossly foolish, like hardworking beasts of burden. They want to enjoy the fruits of their labor by themselves, and so do not want to part with them for the supreme. The typical example of the beast of burden is the ass. This humble beast is made to work very hard by his master. The ass does not really know for whom he works so hard day and night. He remains satisfied by filling his stomach with a bundle of grass, sleeping for a while under a fear of him being beaten by his master, and satisfying his sex appetite at the risk of being repeatedly kicked by the opposite party. The ass sings poetry and philosophy sometimes, but this bearing sound only disturbs others. This is the position of the foolish fruity worker who does not know for whom he should work. He does not know that karma action is meant for yajna, sacrifice.
No, the next.
Next one.
There's one more paragraph for this point.
Most often, those who work very hard day and night to clear the burden of self-created duties say that they have no time to hear of the immortality of the living being. To such mudas, material gains which are destructible or life all in all, despite the fact that Buddhas enjoy only a very small fraction of the fruit of labor. Sometimes they spend sleepless days and nights for fruity gain, and although they may have ulcer or indigestion, they are satisfied with practically no food. They are simply absorbed in working hard day and night for the benefit of illusory master. Ignorant of their real master, the foolish worker waste their valuable time serving mammon. Unfortunately, they never surrender to the supreme master of all masters, nor do they take time to hear of him from the proper sources. But the swine who eat the night soil do not care to accept sweetmeats made of sugar and ghee. Similarly, the foolish worker will untiringly continue to hear of the same enjoyable tidings of the flickering mundane world, but will have very little time to hear about the eternal living force that moves the material world.
So, the mudha refers to those who are grossly foolish. Grossly foolish means they're bewildered by the external world. They just want ordinary sense enjoyment, just plain materialists. Typical example is a donkey. This donkey example that Prabhupada gives, actually what Prabhupada presents here, this is actually derived from Srimad Bhagavatam itself. Bhagavatam also you come across very plainly. Shukadeva Goswami himself has many interesting things to say about the non-devotees who don't want to surrender. Second canto itself, when he's just beginning to speak, even at that point he starts explaining. So that also There it is even more heavy. There he compares some of the non-devotees to pigs. So the reason why these gross materialists are considered to be donkeys is a donkey is just unnecessarily doing work. No? So people who are unnecessarily engaged in hard work, they are considered to be excessively foolish. So for these people, these moodhas, they think that there's only one life. And they work very, very hard. Actually, people in today's world, they do work very hard. I must admit, they work very hard. There are people, even in a place like West Bengal, from Krishnagar, there are people who go every day to Calcutta to work and come back. Unbelievable. Every day. And we are talking of 25 years, 30 years. Hard work. I don't even want to talk about how people in Bombay and all live. At least this Krishnagar people going to Calcutta, they have a place to sit. I've seen. They have a method. There's somebody who goes ahead and keeps the handkerchiefs and make sure they sit. But in Bombay, what is that? You standing and you cannot even stand peacefully. You stand on one leg, like some kind of unnecessary tamasic tapasya, I guess. They do so much of hard, so much of hard. But all of that for what? All of that just for a little bit of sleep, a little bit of sex, and that's all. That's all. And many times their health is also not so great. It's just they waste their valuable time serving mammon. Simply interested in money. Money is their god. The swine who eat the night soil. Night soil means stool. And the swine means pig. The pigs who eat stool do not care to eat sweets made of sugar and ghee. So that's their standard, that's all. They have their low class standard. Okay, point number 2. I want someone else to read.
Another class of Dushkriti on the screen is called the Naradhama, the lowest of mankind. Nara means human being, and Adhama means the lowest. Out of the 8,400,000 different species of living beings, there are 400,000 human species. Out of this, there are numerous lower forms of human life that are mostly uncivilized. The civilized human beings are those who have regular principles of social, political, and religious life. Those who are socially and politically developed, but who have no religious principles, must be considered Naradhanas. Nor is religion without God religion, because the purpose of following religious principle is to know the supreme truth and man's relation with him. In the Gita, the personality of Godhead clearly states that there is no authority but him, and that he is the supreme truth. The civilized form of human life is meant for man's reviving the lost consciousness of his eternal relation with the supreme truth, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who is all powerful. Whoever loses this chance is classified as an Aradhana. We get information from revealed scriptures that when the baby is in the mother's womb, an extremely uncomfortable situation, he prays to God for deliverance and promises to worship him alone as soon as he gets out. To pray to God when he is in difficulty is a natural instinct in every living being, because he is eternally related with God. But after his deliverance, the child forgets the difficulties of birth and forgets his deliverer also being influenced by Maya, the illusory energy. It is the duty of the guardians of children to revive the divine consciousness dormant in them. The 10 processes of reformatory ceremonies, as enjoined in the Manusmriti, which is the guide to religious principles, are meant for reviving God consciousness in the system of Varnashrama. However, no process is strictly followed now in any part of the world, and therefore 99.9% of the population is Naradha. When the whole population becomes Naradana, naturally all their so-called education is made null, void, by the all-powerful energy of physical nature. According to the standard of the Gita, a learned man is he who sees on equal terms the learned Brahmana, the dog, the cow, the elephant, the dog eater. That is the vision of a true devotee. Sri Nityananda Prabhu, who is incarnation of Godhead, is divine master, delivered the typical Naradamas, the brothers Jagai and Manhar, and showed how the mercy of a real devotee is bestowed upon the lowest of mankind. So the Naradana, who is contemned as a personality of Godhead, can again revive his spiritual consciousness only by the mercy of the devotee. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in propagating the Bhagavad Dharma or activities of the devotees, has recommended that people submissively hear the message of the personality of God. The essence of this message is Bhagavad Gita. The lowest amongst human beings can be delivered by this submissive hearing process only. But unfortunately, they even refuse to give an oral reception to these messages, and what to speak of surrendering to the will of the Supreme Lord. Naradanas, or the lowest of mankind, willfully neglect the prime duty of the human being.
So the second class, they are actually worse than the Mudha group, the Naradhana group, because these people, they are socially and politically developed, but they have no religious principles. So they are not raw, they are refined, yet they don't surrender. Now, why are they refined? That means they have some basic sense. Why would you not be like an animalistic character? Because you have some basic idea that everybody is important, you have some amount of maturity. But at the same time, they cannot tolerate surrender unto an all-pervading supreme authority. They cannot tolerate it. Cannot tolerate it. So subconsciously, they cannot handle it at all. So therefore, they reject Vedic authority. They reject the authority of the Supreme Personality of God. When the whole population becomes Naradhama, all their so-called education is made null and void. Null and void. We know Prabhupada often quoted Chanakya Pandit. What is that? Matravat Paradareshu, Paradravyeshu, Dostavat, Atmavat Sarvabhuteshu, Yapashyati Sapandita. All of that is taken. In today's world, they learn to view each other as objects of enjoyment. So Matravat Paradareshu is gone. They are not trained to respect each other and not exploit each other. So the boys are not trained in that manner also. The girls are also not trained. That's gone. So then Paradravyeshu Loshtavat. You should not take somebody else's property. A simple principle. You should not take, don't steal somebody else's property. Atmavat Sarvabhuteshu. Deal with others the way you would have them deal with you. This is ordinary moral principles. Even that is not done. This is not even surrender unto the Supreme Being. It's just ordinary morality, but even that is not done. So when they may struggle to become moral in an atheistic manner, but it is always a failure. It is always a failure. Only hope for these Naradamas is a personality who is as merciful as Lord Nityananda Prabhu, who is determined to save the Naradana characters. So only followers of Nityananda Prabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can save this group. Okay, next, point number 3.
The next class of Bhakti is called Maya Pradita Jnana, or those persons whose erudite knowledge has been nullified by the influence of the living material energy. They are mostly very learned fellows, great philosophers, poets, literati,
Literate.
scientists, etc. But God initially and nothing guides them, and therefore they disobey the Supreme Lord. There are a great number of Maya spiritual jnana at the present moment. Even among the scholars of the Bhagavad Gita. In the Gita, in plain and simple language, it is stated that Sri Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. There is no equal to the greater than him. He is mentioned as the father of Brahma, the original father of all human beings. In fact, Sri Krishna is said to be not only the father of Brahma, but also the father of all the planets. He is the root of the impersonal Brahma, impersonal Atma. The super soul in every entity is every person. He is the fountain of everything. And everyone is alive in manner of the spirit. Despite all these clear statements from Maya to Jnana, they write the personality of the Supreme Lord and consider him merely another human being. They do not know that the blessed form of human life is designed after the eternal and transcendental feature of the Supreme Lord. All the unauthorized interpretations of the Gita by the class of Maya outside the purview of the Paramita system are so confusing, but so many stumbling blocks on the path of spiritual understanding. The deluded interpreters do not surrender into the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, nor do they teach others to follow this principle.
How about the way he preached Krishna consciousness? It becomes very easy to identify who's a Maya Bhakti again. You don't need to be a great scholar to understand. As a sample, you can simply take Bhagavad Gita itself. Like here, in this second paragraph about this point, from the second sentence onwards, he gives a number of just ordinary assertions found in the Bhagavad Gita itself. Shri Krishna is the supreme personality of God. There is none equal to or greater than him. He is the father of Brahma. Who is the original father of human beings? He is also the father of all species of life. He is the root of imposed Brahman. He is the root of Paramatma. He is the fountainhead of everything. Everyone is advised to surrender to him. So that is 4 plus 4, 8 points. Okay. And you can easily find it. You can easily find it. And Bhagavad Gita Sanskrit is not some complicated Sanskrit. Prabhu also made this point. The Bhagavad Gita is intentionally presented in very simple Sanskrit. First of all, it is found in Mahabharata, which itself is presented in simple Sanskrit. And within that, the Gita Sanskrit is actually quite simple. In fact, those who learn Sanskrit, after they learn some amount of grammar, even in the West, they are typically given as exercise some portion of Bhagavad Gita for translation purposes. It's a simple thing. It's not something very complicated. And despite so much of clear, it's just quite clear. Still, no. A great scholar, he has to say something different. He'll have to come up and say something different. These are all the scholarly demons. This is that scholarly demon. And then what to speak of if you are big educationist and other. These people are very honestly, they believe that they know a lot. They know. There's no question of preaching to them. They are beyond the radar. So they know. So they'll never surrender unto the Supreme Lord, and they make sure that nobody under them also surrenders unto the Supreme Lord. Last point.
The last class of the scripture is called Hospital in Bhavam Ashita, a door of demonic principle. This class openly appears some of them ask that the Supreme Lord can never descend upon the principle, but there are never between any tangible being as Vidvan. There are others who may be subordinate to the impersonal feature, although the opposite is declared in the Gita. In case of the Supreme Personality of God, the atheist is present a number of illicit incarnations manufactured in the factory of his brain. That person is very principle of life to describe his personality of God and not surrender unto the lotus feet of Krishna. Yamanacharya, the root of
South India.
Says, "O my Lord, you are unknowable to persons involved with artistic principle. despite with uncommon qualities, features, and activities, despite your personality being confirmed by all the living scriptures in the quality of goodness, and despite your being acknowledged by the famous authorities renowned for their depth of knowledge in the classical science and the body of therefore, one gospel-finished person through the lowest of mankind, the religious creators, and for the prosperous atheists as above mentioned, never surrendered unto the lotus feet of the personality of God, in spite of all scripture and authoritative evidence.
So if a living entity has come to these statuses, as long as he is having these attitudes, he will never surrender unto the Lord. So these people simply don't surrender. That is why Krishna is speaking in the present tense. And the next verse also, Krishna is speaking in the present tense, those who do surrender unto him. Present tense indicates that it's a continuous fact. So it's not that till yesterday they were like that, and from now onwards it's going to change. It will always be these conditions. So there will always be those who do surrender, those who don't surrender. Those who don't surrender, there are gradations. It's not that all of them are the same thing. You will always have different people like this. Madhvacharya points out that all of these different ideologies that are there, including Mayavad, Buddhism, not that Buddhism was started by Lord Buddha. Shunyavada was always there. It's just that at a particular time, a particular personality propagates it and makes it famous. Then for that time, they all think that, oh, he's the one who started. He didn't start it. He just reinstalled it. It was always there. Again, he brought it up. So, Mayavad was always there. Buddhism, Shunyavada was always there. Atheism is always there. In fact, there are certain teachings which are propagated by Krishna himself in some form. Atheism and all, he himself promotes in certain manner. It's very funny, no? And God himself promotes atheism in certain manner, certain times. Okay, we stop with this and we'll resume. 11th. Because everywhere you see God delusion is written by that fellow Richard Dawkins. He has a real problem with people thinking about God and all that. There's a group of people who actually want to stop theism. They want to stop religion. In fact, they do their own propaganda. They're very much there. Very strongly there. They want to save people from religion. Any religion. It's not that Hindu religion, Christian religion, any religion. And they say that most of the major wars in humanity, they have all come about because of religion only. So you remove religion, and then you remove war also. Then everybody will love each other. Great, we will be peaceful. Just forget it. So there are openly there are people who speak like this. Openly atheistic, it's a fashion also. It's a fashion. Okay.